Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mariana and today we are doing a review of T.S Gibson's A Dowry of Blood. I am so thankful that I discovered this book. You have absolutely no idea. You know, there are things that you need to know about me. And one of those is the fact that I am a sucker for romantic and poetic writing in books. And in this case, it's perfectly justified. You'll see why later. But just the writing in this book is enough to make it one of the best books I have read in a while. You see, this book is actually a retelling of Dracula's Brides, but it's actually told from the perspective of Constanza, one of his brides, and I think that is actually a breath of fresh air, because oftentimes when we hear about Dracula, we almost see it from his point of view. You know, the sexy and mysterious and almost impossible to resist creature. He is sensual. He is a Casanova. And in this case, we actually see the man behind the monster, the man behind the legend. A very human and flawed character. Now, I really want to talk about the characters in this novella. As I said, we have our unnamed character, Dracula, basically. He is not just your typical depiction of him. He is very mean. He's very demeaning. He is very abusive. He is truly evil because he very openly does not care about his loves. So have Constance, your protagonist. She's a very interesting character because when we first meet her, she is actually on the brink of death. She's saved by him. Of course, she literally owes him her life, and there is this kind of I owe you mentality that makes her put up with a lot of things. She is also a very human character. She is jealous, she is insecure, she is very protective. She is a full-fledged character, and I really appreciate that, because she's not only the victim, she is not only a wife, as the brides of Dracula are often depicted, you know, almost as objects. She is a person. She is not just there to satisfy him. We also have Magdalena, a character that I absolutely fell in love with. She is very young from what is said in the book. She is still one of the smartest characters in this novella. She is a politician at heart. She is cunning. She is very flirty. She is unapologetically her. And we also have Alexei, is, I would say, the biggest victim in this book, because even though, yes, Constance didn't have a choice, she was turned because she was dying, and Magdalena truly wanted it. Alexei, granted, he wanted to be turned, but he was a kid. He was homeless. He was a true victim. He was either turned and welcomed into this dysfunctional family, or he was gonna die. And the fact that him, Dracula, preyed on this poor little kid, I feel so bad for him. The way that this book is written is actually very interesting, because It's actually told almost as diary entries or letters from Constanza to Dracula. Also, the fact that he is actually never referred to by his name is a very, very nice detail, because I think that it removes the mysticism around him. You know, when you're reading the book, you're not thinking about Dracula. You're thinking about a terrible guy, honestly, a abusive and manipulative guy. And I think that's a very, very smart move from the author, because basically what this book tackles is domestic and psychological abuse, and removing the fantastical part associated with this very, very famous character actually allows you to immerse in the objective of the story, the fact that he is an abusive person. He is basically keeping Constanza and Magdalena, the other wife, and Alexei, the husband, in terrible conditions, because they are constantly being manipulated. They are constantly being gaslit. They are controlled to the most minuscule detail. They have this looming presence over them. They live in fear. Also, I love how real the depiction of toxic relationships are in this book, because even though Constance, even though Maggie, even though Alexei are completely aware of the fact that they are not in a healthy relationship, they still idolize him. They call him my liege, my savior, my husband, my love. They still justify some of his actions when he treats them like garbage. They justify and they still stay up until the point where they break. And I think that is a very, very realistic depiction of those kinds of relationships. You know, sadly, some of us have been in toxic relationships. Almost everyone knows someone that has been in one. It's like that, albeit not with a vampire, not with an immortal being, but the feeling of being stuck, almost caged, is completely real. And I think it grounds the story. Yes, it's told in this very poetic way, this very flowery way, but it's still raw and real and realistic. Another aspect that I absolutely adored with this book is how the dynamic of the brides is actually changed in here. You don't have the centerpiece. You don't have the whole dynamic revolving around him. You have a truly poly marriage where they're not really equals. You still have him, but they truly love each other. They are, between the three of them, three victims, let's say, you have true love. You have real relationships. To the point where in a prequel that the author wrote, they are still together centuries, decades. We're not really told how much time has elapsed since Dracula is no longer with them, but they are still a family. And I think that removing him as the end-all be-all of their lives is very realistic, because let's be honest, yeah, if you're stuck inside a house, you are with a very, very toxic and evil and manipulative person, and you're also with other victims who are going through the same things that you are, it's almost impossible not to care for them and not to build meaningful relationships with them. So yeah, I really, really appreciated the fact that by the end of the book, them, the three of them, are a unit, are a family, that they have true love and care for each other. I think that this book is truly the way that you ground in relative reality such a big and mystical and almost untouchable story. It's very new in the way that it's not just a retelling for the sake of a retelling. It actually adds to the story. It's the true LGBT dynamic in the marriage, how you have, well, real bisexual depictions in the book. It highlights true toxic relationships with both the glorification and the fear and the love bombing and the things that actually go on in this kind of relationships. It's truly grounded in reality as far as it can be. I absolutely adored this book. I think I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's truly a book that I hold near and dear to my heart, even though I read it very, very recently. And yeah, I think that you should absolutely read it, give it a go, and you'll love it. I know you're gonna love it. So yeah, that was everything for today. I hope you're having a great one. Until the next one, bye.